one of the things that I love the most about what we're going to talk about today is that Chelsea's message and what she's going to teach us gives us the ability to control the market and to create the market. And so I'm really, really excited for this session. Well, official welcome back to Rocket Fuel. We are here to kick off the fall super strong with our very first guest. You guys, Chelsea Pites. I mean, it doesn't get more credible than this woman when it comes to mastering social media marketing and lead generation for agents, utilizing the power and the leverage of social media. This woman is like phenomenal. She is a speaker. She is a best-selling author. She is a coach, a course creator, a podcast host, a mother. She is all the things. And so I'm super honored to have you here today, Chelsea. We are just really, really excited for this conversation and for your session. So I'm going to give it over to you because everyone's here to hear you, not me.
Yay. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's so great to see some familiar faces and some names and also some brand new ones. So thank you all so much. First order of business is who the heck am I? I'm Chelsea Pites. My last name rhymes with lights. I once upon a time was a real estate professional. I got my license in 2001 BF, and that stands for before Facebook. So I did business the old-fashioned way for a long time because, y'all, we didn't have Instagram. We didn't have LinkedIn. We didn't have any of these things. We certainly weren't making videos all the time, right? So my background actually is in clinical psychology. That's what my degree is in. I wanted to be a therapist, but I'm highly empathic and emotional. And I was like, I don't think my soul can take crying all day long with my clients every day. So I joke and I say that I became a realtor, which is kind of the next best thing. So I kind of consider myself a little bit of a social media therapist, if you will. I'm really fond of breaking down those myths and the rules and all the things that everybody out there is telling us that we have to do, because I'm a big believer that you can do social media your way in a way that feels safe for you, that feels like it's fun for you and aligned with your actual personality. Because I know that so many of you are feeling a lot of fear right now. And I break down the fear, the letters in fear, FEAR. One is frenzied. I mean, can we even go into one of the social platforms and not see that it's updated 12 things that day? And there's new feeds and reels and TikToks and all the things. And it is just becoming overwhelming. I'm overwhelmed and I'm in the business. So we're totally frenzied by trying to figure out, well, which strategy are we going to do? Are we going to do short form? Are we going to do long form? Are we doing hashtags or hashtags dead? And it becomes so overwhelming. So I'm going to just break it down so simply for you today so that it's doable, approachable, because I believe when you understand how these things actually work, you can actually make some smarter decisions and your content and what you're doing on the socials will actually work harder for you. We're also feeling very exposed, especially if you're a Gen Xer like me, who didn't grow up with the internet. We didn't grow up with social media, right? I had the encyclopedia, like a person actually came and knocked on the door and we bought it. And that is the only place I went to. And whatever ended on that letter is all I knew about, because if they didn't have it in the letter E when I was looking for something, it wasn't there. And honestly, I felt kind of weird making friends on the internet. I'm like, that's kind of strange. I'm not used to that. Also, many of us were raised that we don't brag about ourselves. We should be humble. And some of you might feel like, I want to share that I'm a likable human being, but I don't want to overshare. I don't want to be one of those people that's documenting everything in my whole dang day. I don't want to be a content creator. I want to help people buy and sell homes, which is what I'm really good at. So if that resonates with you at all, let me tell you, I'm here with you. We also feel a bit awkward because, if I'm being honest, it's a little awkward to see yourself on camera and watch it back. That's actually, I think, the number one fear. A lot of people think it's public speaking. I'm going to put that in the second category. And I feel like the number one biggest cringe factor fear is actually watching your own content back. And I can't even imagine watching it in front of a room full of people that I know, the cringe. Okay. So if you feel that way, you're human. I'd be worried if you didn't feel that way. So unless you're making videos every day, all day long, and you're used to it, you should be feeling that way. And the reason that we feel awkward on camera a lot of times, even if we hit our lines, like you've written a script, you've prepared, you're like, I'm going to talk about the market update today. You get your phone out, you prop it up, you go, you have all of your lines, and then you watch it back and you're like, ah. There's just something about it that doesn't quite feel like me. And you can't put your finger on it, but I'm about to tell you exactly what it is. It's because we were taught from a very early age that you better come prepared. You better know your lines. You better know what you're talking about. If you're going to make a video and you're the expert on what you're doing in a particular area like real estate, and you are helping people in a fiduciary capacity, you better sound like you're professional and know what you're talking about. So we study, we memorize, and then what happens is our brain is memorizing bullet point number 3 and our face is on the intro. And then what happens is this part of my brain is controlling the memory, this part of the brain is controlling my face. And then it doesn't work anymore and your face is just dead and you're staring into the camera and your tone has changed too because you're actually reading in your head. And so what happens is it's not you, it's the fact that we are trying to memorize something and then deliver it in a way that is perfection. And then we're like, that's me in that video, but it kind of feels a little off. And last but not least, like I said, we're all kind of probably feeling a little resentful that we have to be like a full-time digital content creator now. And just because somebody that is new in my market is making a TikTok every day, whoa, what's happening? How are they being more successful than I am? And I've had a 30-year career in real estate. So if any of those feelings resonated, did I describe any of you? Like, drop me something. If it's a 1, like that's a yes, okay? Drop me a 1 if you're like, oh my God, I feel like you're talking to me. Okay, good. I'm really happy that I'm able to like really hone in. And you know what? Marvin says 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 to infinite, right? That's because I feel that way too. And that's what's really important. That whole exercise that we just did, that's going to get us into our first lesson of the day of what the heck is actually working in social media right now. Okay. What's really working in social media, and this is nothing new, it's just that we usually think social media is this whole separate thing. But if you think about people that have written ads, if you think about people that have written books, copywriters, right? They have this magical ability to like put words together and you're like, God, I never would have thought of it or said it like that. So one thing that's really, really helpful for you as you are creating content is to think not necessarily about the demographics of like one human being, one avatar. Like you've heard that a million times. Well, you got to have a niche. You got to speak to one person. And here's what we recommend you do. We recommend that you write out like, what is their age? Where do they live? What is their income? Right? You've heard it. But the problem is in real estate and a lot of other things, we're serving so many different types of humans, right? You have buyers, you have sellers, you have investors. So what's my niche? I would like to reframe your mindset on what a niche is. And here's what I look at this as. I look at it as instead of demographics, let's just answer one question. What are the stories that my people, my humans that I want to help, what are the stories they're telling themselves and believing? What are the stories they're telling themselves and believing? May not be true. It doesn't matter. They believe it. It's true to them. So when I said the word resentful earlier, I said, how many of you are feeling a little bit resentful that you're kind of like out here feeling like you have to be a full-time digital content creator making content every day? You were like, yes, that feels like me. So I know that because I've taken the time to say, what are my ideal humans who are in real estate? Who maybe were, you know, Gen X, if we're doing demographics or whatever, didn't grow up with social media. What's the story they're telling themselves and believing? And the story y'all are telling yourselves are things like this. I don't want to be a full-time content creator. I'm kind of resentful about the whole thing. I didn't grow up with social media. I can do business the old-fashioned way because I've done referral and buy referral for 25 years. Everything has already been said by someone else in the same industry. How am I going to show up and be different? My life is boring. My God, why would anybody care to see what I'm doing behind the scenes? Or you might say, I'm kind of new. I'm not an expert. I'm afraid of showing up as the expert. All of these things are stories that we tell ourselves and believe. And so I'm going to tap into those. Your clients might be saying, I'll never get a house in this type of market. How am I ever going to afford it? I'm priced out. right? They might be telling themselves all kinds of stories. And when you hone in on what stories they're telling themselves and what emotions they're feeling, okay, write down the word feelings. You might even want to Google this cool little old school thing that I've used for years called the emotions wheel. Type it in, emotions wheel. It's this circle, you've probably seen it before, all these different colors, because when I was thinking, well, how are people feeling? I only came up with happy, mad, or sad. And that wasn't really good. And then I started looking at that and I thought, wait a minute, people are feeling overwhelmed. People are feeling frustrated. People are feeling discouraged. And when I can hone in on how people are feeling and what stories they're telling themselves and believing, then my messaging gets really specific. And I go from, hey, do you want to make more videos and get more leads to, are you a real estate human? Maybe didn't grow up with social media and you feel overwhelmed right now that you have to figure all of this stuff out. You maybe are making videos and you're feeling really awkward, cringeworthy when you watch them back. And honestly, you're just feeling completely discouraged. I'm going to use that specificity and not in a manipulative way, in a way to compassionately serve my audience. So step number one, friends, and you actually watched me as I did it in the first beginning, and you're like, yes, I feel that way. I feel that way. I feel that way. The question is, how do your clients, maybe not ones you've worked with yet, maybe your future clients, how do they feel before working with you? Okay. Go to that emotions wheel. They might feel overwhelmed. They might feel insecure. They might feel frustrated. They might be excited. You never know. How are they feeling before they work with you? How are they feeling during their work with you? And how are they feeling after your work with you? And you might be really surprised that you're like, I never thought of that before. And then I want you to go and look at your posts. Just go to Instagram. Are you including any of that in any of your content? Probably not. So if you're looking to create content that, quote, converts, the first thing is being specific in your message for a specific human, but not necessarily a demographic niche. Just talk about their feelings and maybe what stories they're telling themselves and believing, right? So that'll be a really good starting point for you. The next thing that I want to talk about is how the heck do all these things work? I don't know about you guys, but I would be so annoyed when I would go to, well, it was live conferences back then, right? Now we're doing Zooms and everything. I'd sign up for the conference and I'm like, yes, I want to go to this class that's going to give me the secret to the algorithm. And then I sat in that class and it gave me literally nothing. It was just like a clickbait title. And I was like, but no, just tell me exactly what to do. So I'm going to tell you exactly how these algorithms work on these platforms. And when I tell you this, you're going to have this aha moment where you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad she told us that, because now you know what to focus on. This goes across all the platforms. Now, of course, there's little differences and variations and all of that. But I want you to know at a very basic level, here's how the algorithms, and there's multiple algorithms in every platform. Like if we're talking about Instagram, there's one for the home feed, there's one for the Reels feed, there's one for stories. We're not going to get into the weeds. All you need to know is how these platforms generally work, and here's how they work. Obviously, we all know this. They want you to spend as much time on that platform as possible, okay? They have hired product psychologists to get people addicted and coming back to these feeds. We know that. We get lost in a rabbit hole. I know I do. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then an hour later, where did it go, right? I have to put a timer on sometimes. And I know they do this and I still fall into it, right? That's how good these platforms are. But I want you to think about something that probably nobody has ever talked to you about. And I want you to think of it in terms of this. Who's the real competition for social media platforms? It's not each other, okay? It's TV. And most importantly, it's communication, right? It's your text messages. It's your emails. Anybody remember when we started COVID, like 4 or 5 years ago, that Facebook decided they wanted to try to become Zoom? They're like, hey, you can do Zoom calls within Facebook, right? So these platforms are wanting to be communication tools. Why? Because think about it. If I send Amy a DM, a direct message on any platform, well, she gets a notification. And even if she has her notifications turned off, when she opens up Instagram, she'll see the little red dot notification, and our brains just can't help it. We're like, oh, what is that? Is somebody saying something about my content? I better go look, right? So we have this itch we need to scratch. We go in, and then she sees that it's my profile picture and that I've commented or sent her a message. Well, of course, she wants to see what it is. And so she goes in and reads the message and then probably replies, right? Then what happens is you might go around, look at a few things. I have essentially brought her back to the platform, and I'm keeping her on the platform by simply talking to her. And so the algorithms are really, really focused, not so much on your content. They're more focused on your context, your conversations. So if the one thing that I can tell you that will absolutely impact positively your engagement, your reach, your growth of your community, and your conversions isn't actually making more content. It's about reframing the thought that your most impactful content is actually your conversations. And the platforms love it when you have conversations because you're bringing people back, right? And they're like, oh, you're a really great community member. But here's the thing too, it's like, how many of you have had conversations with people that maybe you've never really met in real life? Or maybe you have met them maybe at a conference, and then you realize that when you actually go to the conference, you're like, hey, let's get together and have coffee or a cocktail. And then you're like, wait, I realize I don't even have your phone number. We've just been DMing for 2 years. Well, that is no mistake, friends. They want people to use their tools as communication pathways because then you're locked in. You're not going to abandon Instagram now because you got so many conversations going on and you've been talking to so many people that you don't even have their phone number. 25 years ago, I walked into my broker's office. He'd ask me the same question every day. He'd say, how many people did you talk to today? That was the one question. How many conversations did you have? How many people did you talk to? Nothing new. That is, tale as old as time, sales and marketing, conversations. Who'd you get in front of? Who'd you talk to? And a busy day in 2000, I'd be like, whew, so busy today, 3 people. I had coffee with someone, then I went to the office, I did some paperwork, then I went on broker tour. And I also left 1-minute voicemails for people who actually listened to it and then called me back. Wild, right? The ability to actually talk to people at scale for free, without a phone number, without an email, none of that. It blows my mind. So if nothing else, stop looking at social media as a content machine and start looking at it as a context machine, as a really amazing CRM where people actually pay attention and actually respond. And most of us are on some or one of them, right? So think in terms of less contenting, more commenting. And what happens is the algorithm notices who you're talking to. And the fact that I send a direct message to Amy and she responds, the algorithm says, wait a minute, we've got people talking to each other here. We're going to reshuffle Amy's feed and Chelsea's feed. And then we're going to make sure that when Amy posts something, Chelsea sees it. And we're going to make sure that when Chelsea posts something, Amy sees it for free with no ads. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, who you talk to matters more than what you're posting, not only to the people, but to the algorithm. So if you really want to start training your algorithm, you need to be a proactive super fan of other people's content. Their stories, their posts, sending direct messages. And I'm not talking about sales messages. I'm talking about, oh my gosh, this is so funny. Or, oh my gosh, your dog is so cute. You literally just have to start training the algorithm with who you're talking to. And when you do decide to post sustainably, consistently, looks different for everyone. Maybe it's once a week. Chances are those people you've been having communication with are going to see your content. Now I'm going to open it up for questions. So get your questions ready if you want to drop them in the chat or if you want to unmute. One other thing I want to tell you is it's not you, friends, okay? Something has happened with engagement and metrics and all the things. And what I will tell you is that my personal belief is that a lot of these platforms have trained the engagement out of us in 2 ways. One, now we're seeing a bunch of people we don't know. 50% of your feed, your home feed in Instagram, is from people you do not follow. It's like 25-30% on Facebook now. Okay. Remember, Facebook, you didn't even accept a friend request from somebody you didn't actually know in real life, right? So how do we interact with people we don't know? We don't. We silently consume. Maybe you'll get a heart or a like. So that's not really a lot of engagement. Then what happens is we're so used to seeing people we don't know. We're also so used to opening up a feed like TikTok or Reels and being fed content. It trained the engagement right out of us. So what's getting harder is being able to track the ROI and the impact of your content, which is why I make up my own metrics. I do not rely on views. Those do not equal value. I do not rely on some of the metrics that they have because you never know who's watching. And a lot of those people are silently connecting while they're consuming, and they are not going to leave you a comment. They might give you a like, or they might just watch the entire video that you just made. And what's cool about the algorithm is that it knows that person watched all 33 seconds of your video. So now what happens is the algorithm says, hey, you didn't like this, you didn't share it, you didn't do anything, but you watched it and you watched the whole thing. So we're going to anticipate maybe you want to see more of this person's content in the future, and they will start showing more of that person's content in the future. All of you have had this experience where you watch something and then you see that person again and you see them again and you're like, who is this person? And then you eventually go to their profile and maybe you decide to follow them. So it's not bad news at all. I just want to let you know, you are not doing anything wrong. So many people are getting discouraged right now. Engagement is not down. It's just different. And so if you are getting your value and worth just from views, you'll probably be really discouraged and disappointed. So I would encourage you to create some of your own metrics. Like, did I commit to posting once a week? Okay, check mark, I control that. Did I start 3 conversations today? Check mark, I control that. We do not control the algorithm. We don't. We never have. We never will. So I just want to let people know that you're not doing anything wrong. Okay, so let's open it up for some questions. And Amy, I know I can talk for a long time, so I'm open to stay as long as you want, but I also want to be cognizant of like whatever you have planned on your agenda too. So you just let me know when questions should stop. But if anybody has any questions, whether it's algorithms or content or video tips or platform specific, hashtags, whatever, like I'm here to answer all of your questions. I'm a total open book. I would love to do that.
No, this is so great, Chelsea. What I want to do is just, give everybody a chance to like, let's get the conversation going. This is such a relevant, and I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just, I feel like it's a topic that's really important to a lot of people right now. So
yeah, my goal is to leave you all empowered and just to give you some permission that you can do this in a way that doesn't look like what other people are telling you it has to look like to be successful. I do not post 4 times a week. I don't even post 2 times a week sometimes, but I talk to people every day. So it feels discouraging when you are trying the things that people say are like, well, I'll never be like that, and I can't do 5 a week, and I'm not a content creator, and just forget the whole thing. You know what? Social media doesn't work anyway. I told you it wasn't going to work, and see, I tried it and it didn't work. So it's about reframing that we are human beings on the other side, and how can we leverage it to stay in relationship with the humans that we're serving and to create more of those relationships there. So
good. So if you guys have a question, you can either unmute yourself and ask the question, jump on camera and ask it, or you can drop it into the chat and I will navigate the conversation. So one of the first questions that came in, what's your recommendation on reel covers, organic or designed with like a bright, catchy
yes. Okay. I'm also going to put my Instagram. I totally forget this. See, one of the lessons I should promote myself because I'm the worst at it. I'm putting my Instagram. It's just my name, chelsea.pites. I would love for all of you to follow me and just say hi so I know where you came from. Okay. So reel cover organic.
And I'm also going to, just before you keep going, I'm also going to drop the link to Chelsea's book. Exactly what to post. Wow, that really went through the full Amazon link. So make sure you guys grab that too.
So it doesn't matter reel cover if it's part of the actual reel where you have text and you're grabbing it from there. What I will tell you is that there are two things that we are looking for, and totally subconsciously, this is and it happens in a second. When we are referred to someone, we are going to social media. It might be the last box that is checked before they say, "Yep, I'm going to reach out." So there's two things we're looking for when we come to your social media. Let's just use Instagram because I've been talking about that. We are going to scan in a second. I'm not watching all 30 of your videos. I'm just not. But I'm scanning to see two things. One, are you trustworthy? How do we determine you're trustworthy? I know it sounds silly. Your face. Okay. I need to see eyeballs. I need to see your face. I have written an entire book about how our brain reacts to faces in technology and through screens. Okay. That's why we all hated being on Zoom in the early days of COVID, because nobody had their camera on. Our brain needs to see that to have any kind of reaction. So one, do I see your face in the majority, if not all of the content? Number two is, are you competent? Well, how are they going to tell I'm competent? Again, I know this sounds weird. They're going to read the titles. They're going to see what you talk about, and they just want to assess it really quick. Wow, Amy's got 400 videos about real estate lead generation, right? Or whatever the topic is. She probably knows what she's talking about. That is how fast our brain does it, right? So you need to have some sort of cover where it's going to have text about what you're talking about, okay? Doesn't have to be this like crazy hook or this Canva graphic. Simple, functional, not fancy. I need to be able to actually read it. And that's all I care about, right? The cool thing is, as of last week, Instagram now allows you to go back through any of your videos that you have posted, your reels, okay? You can now click edit, and you can edit and either one, upload a cover photo, or you can actually now scroll through your video and select a frame that has some text in it, because they didn't allow anybody to do that before, and then you can do that. So do you have to go back and do all of it?
I will say this, I actually I'm with you, Chelsea, and I just discovered that on literally on the weekend, but it won't allow you to move it. So you know how when you uploaded the cover image for the first time and you can select if
good
you
old Instagram, always being difficult. I mean, come on.
Just FYI.
Yeah, so it is really important that it's, again, functional. So if it's cutting off if it's cutting the text off, you're going to have to do that. Now, I don't recommend going back through and doing that your whole library if you don't want to, but here's the thing. All of you should have at least 3 pinned posts, and those 3 pinned posts better have a readable text, because I'm not scrolling. I want you to deliver the stuff right there, and I want you to just give me something about you and how you work, maybe how your team, what your expertise is. I don't need your viral video of your cute dog. I need to know how I can work with you and what you do and how you can help me. Okay, so those, you need to have a title on it. All right, next one here.
There's a couple of people that are actually wanting to talk specifically about DMs. So how are you growing your audience through DMs? What are best practices for like strangers and things like that?
Yeah. So the number one question that I always pose and always ask, and this pretty much answers 95% of social media questions, is what would you do in real life? What would you do in real life? Because a lot of people say, well, should I just DM a bunch of people with a copy and paste message about maybe how the market's doing? I'm like, no, absolutely not. The DMs are a beautiful, magical experience of where you can make someone feel seen and you can make their day. And we don't do that by sharing information, even if it's helpful, even if it's polite spam, I call it, okay? Because what happens is when you have like even the PS about you and your business, it immediately negates everything that we just had. So you're not going to say, oh my gosh, your dog is so cute. Can you believe the kids are back in school? So anyway, just wanted to give you some information about the market. No, 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 and no. What would you do in real life if you were at Target or Costco and you ran into someone that you know well, that you remember their first name, okay? Maybe they're past clients. I hope you remember their name. You're not going to be like, hey, Amy, how are you? Oh my God, aren't you so glad the kids are back in town? Hey, listen, can I send you over some stats about the market? Did you know that your neighbor just sold their house? And you're like, we wouldn't do that in real life. Don't do it in the DMs. This is not an opportunity for you to sell. What happens in the DMs, and this is what I call low barrier entry of content. People are like, I don't understand how sharing what I had for lunch is going to help me get a client. I will tell you scientifically exactly why it does, because we need, as human beings, small talk to get to big talk. I need psychologically safe content for me to initiate a conversation.
Mhm.
I need to see your dog so that I can be like, oh my God, I love your dog. Oh, this is so funny. And eventually what happens is I initiate a conversation on low barrier entry of content, not about the market. And we have back and forth and we build trust back and forth. And once I've started a conversation with someone, I am more likely to continue it. 6 months later, when you are talking about the market, again, I will finally reach out to you and ask a question because why? I have built psychological trust. We need small talk to get to big talk. We go to a conference and we're like, hey, this weather's wild, right? Oh, do you have kids? Oh yeah, I have 11-year-old too. You don't just throw your business cards in their face and say, well, send me a deal. What would you do in real life? We do small talk in real life. Why? To establish psychologically safe content and topics for us to talk about. So the DMs, you're going to DM them about what their stories are saying. How beautiful. They're telling you exactly what to say. I mean, you don't have to have that awkward moment like I did in 2000 where I was calling people that I hadn't seen in a while. And I'm like, ugh, they're going to know this is the referral call because I haven't called them. Shame on me. I haven't called them in a long time, right? Now you don't have to think of what to say. You simply comment and start a conversation as you would in real life on whatever they're talking about. You build that, and eventually, I'm telling you, all roads lead to whatever it is that you do. I've had people that I've talked to for 6 years in my DMs, and finally they've said, hey, you know that coaching thing you do? Yeah. You know what, I was thinking about joining, right? And this gal isn't even in real estate. And so they will be seeing what you're doing. They're lurking with love. They need the trust factor and to know what you do without being reminded all the time in a personal message because that's on their terms. So you want to go to people's stories and you want to comment. You want to comment on their posts. Maybe you find something inspiring that they've done and you want to share it. Tag them and let them know you shared it. Wow, that's a huge, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that. That's so kind, right? So you're making someone's day and having those human connections. If you're on Instagram, you might want to make a favorites list because Facebook doesn't let you do it anymore. You can have up to 50 accounts on your Instagram. What does it do? You click on it, all the people you've added, it clears out the feed and all you see is their stuff. Thank you. That's what we want on Instagram anyway. We don't want to see all these other ads and whatever, right? We want to just talk to the people that matter. And we want to do it in a
Can you
way.
say that again? What did you just explain? I feel like I'm
Yes.
having a mind blow.
Okay, let me make this, see if I can make this bigger so y'all can see it. Can you make me bigger so that I can show on my phone up here?
Yeah. Real
Okay.
spotlight.
Okay. So here's Instagram, right? You've all seen that there's the Instagram logo.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see how mine has a little arrow? If you click that, a menu pops up. Sorry. See where it says favorites? You can make a favorites list. And people are like, wait, what? You can add 50 accounts and no, they don't get a notification. It's like, Amy just added you to her favorites list. It's a way for you to be intentional and not rabbit hole for 12 hours down social media or try to find them when you're scrolling, right? So look at your past clients, your current clients, your favorite people, your referral partners in different states, your local business owners when you want to tag them, and maybe refer business, your title partners, your lenders, all of those. You should be engaging with them and you can change that favorites list up every 90 days if you want to. And people forget and we go in there and just like these platforms want us to, we drone out. And in fact, I'll tell on myself, when I want to relax, you know what I do? I scroll the feed. Not good, not ideal, but that's what happens. It hits our dopamine and we go, oh, and we just go like this and scroll and then we don't engage. So set your timer for 5 minutes, go to your favorites list and intentionally engage. And please make sure that they know that you have engaged in their content. So I'm not saying that for 50 people, you have to leave a comment like this, but maybe 3, okay? Maybe somebody did a video. Okay, well, maybe you don't want to watch the whole video, but watch part of it. Fast forward, get to something where you can say, I really liked it when you said this in your video. Because you know what? When you say great video with a smiley face, it kind of is like, well, cool. I don't know that I actually like watched it, but I just want to support you. But when you have that one person who's like, hey, when you made that point about X, Y, and Z, that was really interesting. You remember that person, the mind share that is built when somebody leaves you a thoughtful or a question, a thought-provoking comment on your post, you're like, wow, I remember that person. It's a much bigger brand impression than a like. Nobody even looks at the likes, right? Nobody's like opening up their list and going through who liked it. Okay, some people maybe, but it's about conversations. And that's what you're going to want to do. So spend your, 5 minutes with your coffee or tea or whatever your drink of choice is. And you don't even have to get out of bed to do it. Love that, right? Who thought that I was going to give you a stay in bed strategy for content? Okay.
See, from an algorithm standpoint, is it better to DM or to comment, or does it matter?
So there's nothing in writing. I really do try to quote directly, or if I've personally had conversations with people at Facebook or Instagram, I always try to tell you this is the information I got directly from them. So this is not, I cannot find it anywhere. But my personal belief is that the messaging system is massively important, probably more so than commenting. Why do I think that? Because they have spent so much money in the last 2 years funneling into improving the direct message experience. And they have repeatedly said again and again that the majority of people who are using Instagram are no longer sharing publicly. They are sharing in internal dialogue with friends like, hey, I found this post, I thought you might like it, and spending a lot of time in stories. So that tells me that if they're sharing, hey, we're noticing behavior is heavily focused on direct message communication, that in my mind, why wouldn't they weight that more? But I don't have proof of that, and comments are still amazing. Some people ask me, what about like the thumbs up emoji versus a paragraph? Again, it says that it weights all these things, kind of similarly, but remember the person on the other side is weighting it differently. And your intentional, thoughtful comment of support or asking a question is making an impression with them versus a smiley face with the hard eyes, right? So it's about the human on the other side. So I would say either one is great. Personally, I will tell you, I DM people every day. I posted once a week in the feed for years. And because I DM'd people, I'm telling you, my community engagement, 95% of my reels are seen by followers. That's unheard of. Everybody's complaining about how my reels go out to a bunch of random people and non-followers. My people aren't seeing me. It's because of my DMs. It's because of the conversations that I have there. So I spend my time more on the conversations than on the content. And I actually get ideas for the content through those conversations as well.
Amazing. My business partner, Joe, actually has a question.
What's up, Chelsea? It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So I've got a statement and a question. So my statement is very simply, guys, it's crazy to think that one of the most popular books ever written was on the topic of human communication face to face. Like everybody's read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that's like humans were doing that for 7,000 years at least. Mm-hmm. And we still need a book to tell us how to do it. But then when it comes to social media, it's like, well, why do I have to actually be strategic about this? And so it's just funny that the human face-to-face, verbal communication has received so much education around how to do it right. And then we get to social media and we're like, I just want to use it however I use it. So Chelsea, I think what you're doing is so great to help people understand like there is a science behind this. That's my statement. My question is very simply, how do you feel about my approach to social media, which is I don't want to force myself to engage with people that annoy me or that I really am not interested in. And so like one hack here for me has been if I follow people, it's easy to comment on their, like Anthony Malfonte is one of my great friends. He plays a lot of golf. So it's very natural for me to go like, hey bro, like you're crushing it, or like love a golf course that he's playing. Or if people are in my type of business world, it's just very natural for me to engage with them because I am actually interested. I think when people hear this engagement, there may be some confusion. It's like, oh, great, I have to follow a bunch of people I don't care about.
Yeah.
You just find the people you care about and then follow them. Am I right?
What would you do in real life? Would you invite that friend that you cannot stand over for dinner or go golfing with them? Probably not. You might wave hi at the school pickup line and not be rude. But to my point, again, the question is, what would you do in real life, right? And I love that you brought that up, Joe. So thank you so much, because this brings me to another piece that, listen, I know social media is not rainbow and unicorns. I'm a parent. I worry about what is a world where my child has known nothing, literally nothing but a world of FaceTiming and talking to people and being very normalized with that. So it is what you make it, and you need to have boundaries. Friends, it's almost October. Like, we know what's coming, right? Like, that's just one element of, like, we're going to see all kinds of things, right? That we maybe don't want to see or maybe do want to see. You need to protect your social media space because you need to, number one, always look out for your mental and emotional health. If people annoy you, just mute them. Hide the post, hide the story. They're never going to know. And who cares? Maybe it's a season that you're going through in life. Maybe there's somebody, trying to start a family and they're seeing all these other family and they need to turn that off for a while. Maybe it's somebody who doesn't want to see political stuff. Okay, fine. Protect your peace inside of these platforms. And if y'all are seeing stuff that enrages you, no offense meant, but that's on you. Like, right? We've watched it and we're telling the algorithm, send us more. So what I have to do is I have to go into my Explore page and be like, I press and hold down on a post and I say, not interested, not interested, not interested. So maintain your positive mental space and the people that you want to be consuming. When I open up my Instagram, it's like positivity and joy. And that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for, if you don't like happiness, smileys, and rainbows and dogs, we're not going to hang out. That's just how it is in real life, right?
Yeah. And just to back up what you're saying, Amy and I have talked about this for a long time. Every once in a while, she and I, I'll hit her, she'll hit me up and say, hey, did you see such and such? And so many times my response is, I didn't. And then the question is, well, don't you follow that person? And it's like, well, I actually used to, but I don't now. Mm-hmm. Well, why not? Well, because they made me feel jealous, or they made me feel angry, or they made me like, I'm just very careful with my social media that if what I feel from somebody is not inspiration, aspiration, or like some form of like love or joy or whatever, I just don't follow them. And so when you look at your clients, it's like, well, what if so-and-so that's a raging this political leaning or that political leaning, which is opposite of me, could eventually buy or sell a house from me? My argument would be, it's just not worth the mental trauma you're going to go through. And I realize this sounds maybe mentally weak, but I think when we think about our human interactions, avoiding negativity is so much better than resisting the temptation to respond to negativity. So I just don't see posts from people that make me feel anything other than motivated or happy. And so it's like when I get on social, it's a super easy thing for me to go like keep crushing it, Amy, or like, great job, Jason, or whatever. It's so easy to do that because I truly just feel those things rather than force myself to go through emotional crap with hopes of someday selling or helping them buy a house. Like I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's, everybody's journey. It's like my husband, he's the opposite. He'll get screaming into the phone. I'm like, why are you watching it? So it's like we have polar opposites. So whatever works for you and whatever your season of life. And I think what we're speaking about here is really the journey of self-awareness and honoring yourself and what you know is right for you in that season of your life. Because many of us are not ready to or wanting to share things that may be personal, not private, but personal, human, right? And that's okay, because maybe in 6 years you're going to want to, or maybe not at all. And you know what? You don't have to tell anybody anything. If you want to take a break from social media, there's no rule that says, I'm going to tell everybody I'm taking a break. And then when I come back from it, I'm going to let them know that I'm back and why I left. You don't have to do that. This is your place where you determine what is going to suit you and your goals. So you have permission to do that.
There's another one here about, someone's asking about your thoughts on LinkedIn, Chelsea.
LinkedIn is amazing. What's funny about LinkedIn is it doesn't get enough, I think. Well, I mean, I'm an algorithm geek, so this probably wouldn't dawn on anyone else that's not into it. But the reason that people like TikTok, I'm going to talk about TikTok and how it's related to LinkedIn. The reason that people like TikTok is because everybody had a shot, right? Like you could just post something and you didn't have to have a bunch of followers and you could that video could blow up, right? And so people were growing really quickly. It's because the algorithm would connect you with like 6 degrees of separation, if you will, like people that didn't know you and people that they followed and whatnot. And that's how LinkedIn is, which is amazing because LinkedIn is the original amplification algorithm, which is basically what TikTok is. And the cool thing about LinkedIn is that people are there to have a conversation. So the engagement on LinkedIn, I feel, can often be a lot more than some of the other platforms. And when we talk about thoughtful engagement, where people want to add to a point or want to be in a conversation or want to ask a question, LinkedIn is one of the best places for that. And it knows who we're all connected to. And so maybe if Amy and I are connected, and maybe let's say one of you follows obviously Amy, but we don't follow each other, but you engage with Amy's posts, I'm more likely to see your comments and your posts or your suggested to me because of that connection, because it's smart enough to know we're both in the same industry. You know, Amy, maybe you'll like, to connect with these people. So LinkedIn is amazing. I love it. By the way, they're going to be testing out a full video feed, just like TikTok and Reels. I don't know how it's going to go. The last time they tried something out of the box and put stories in, they took it away because people weren't using it. But I will tell you that if you use anything new and you're one of the first few people, even if you repeat something you've posted somewhere else and just post it there, you'll probably get to ride the wave of a lot more reach and visibility in that space. Same thing, the LinkedIn messages where you're like rolling your eyes so hard that you're like, oh, I saw we went to the same college. Da, da, da. And you're like, stop it, stop, right? We're not gonna do that on LinkedIn. We're gonna support people's content. We're gonna help them feel seen. We're gonna build a relationship with them just like we would offline. I see a hand up, but I'll let you run it, Amy. So you tell me what's best.
Go for it. Shalini, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I will just say a statement first. I'm a big fan. I'm like OG.
I saw your name. I was like, oh, there she is.
Hi. I had a question. Just, I know, like, remaining like authentic to yourself, and there are so many platforms now, and we want to just be everywhere. Like, what are your thoughts on, like, I know you just said on LinkedIn, like maybe reposting something there, but I almost feel like LinkedIn, I would have a blog, and like Instagram, I'm, maybe talking head or being more creative. TikTok, it's just like raw and real. Like, do you think it's okay to repost on all those platforms, or are we trying to create content like specific to these platforms? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I think there's two general groups of thought. One, the person who's like, I want to be efficient. I got a team, I got a system, I want to just push it all out. That person's probably doing quantity over quality. And there's nothing wrong with either one, right? Quantity posting is great because you get to just find out things faster. You get to see and like test and say, this didn't work. Quantity, which is usually where I go because that's my personal preference. I also would say that the people that are over here thinking, okay, but what is the language of LinkedIn? What is the vibe, right? So what's the vibe when I go to a party at my, parents' house with their friends versus if I'm going to go out with brunch with my girls? We all know there's a different vibe and a language. So, if it's possible, it would be great for you to tap into and create original content for each one of those platforms in that language and vibe. What I always do is just to kind of keep it simple, because I know content can be overwhelming, is I stick with one idea and I'll recreate that idea in a variety of different formats for different places. For example, if I do a talking head reel on Instagram about my 5-step process for whatever, I'll make that little reel. Then I'll make maybe a carousel post that kind of just has text. Then I'll make a podcast that's 15 minutes. Then I might have that podcast be transcribed by my assistant and go on my blog. Yes, LinkedIn is still one of the few places that loves text. If you love to write, LinkedIn might be perfect for you. So yeah, you don't have to be on all the places. For me personally, my mental and emotional health is always number one. And so I just know myself. I'm very self-aware. I will burn out. I pick one platform and that's where I hang out. And do I have something on all the platforms? Yeah. I don't post on all the platforms, or for seasons of time, I may not. Maybe one day I'll be like, you know what? I'm ready to start posting more often over here. But I know that I will burn myself out. at this season of life, and I spend my time in one place for right now. So up to you.
This has been so good, Chelsea. Wow. Guys, I have a few top takeaways, or a few power statements that Chelsea said that I wrote down. What would I do or say in real life? That one was so good. So impactful. Less content, more comments. I love that. I love that. What are the stories that they're telling themselves and believing? I love the way you changed our perspective on niche. That was the first time I've ever heard it said like that. And it was so impactful. Small talk leads to big talk. I needed to hear that one because I am not a small talk person. And often we want to just shrug it off because it's not important, but it is how you build that relationship and build that rapport. Small talk leads to big talk. Who you're talking to matters more than what you post. Train the algorithm. I mean, these are just a few. I already have it in my calendar when I'm going to watch this recording again. This is so good. If you guys want to watch the recording, don't forget to join our Facebook group, United Community. Everybody is welcome to it. It is, although we host RocketFuel by Real Brokerage, it is open to all brands and brokerages. We just firmly believe that we're going to be better together. Thank you so much, Chelsea. This was amazing. Guys, if you could just drop in the chat, let's fill Chelsea's bucket back up. It takes a lot out of you to do a training like this and just to continue to, invest in us. And you're always investing in the industry. So let's fill her bucket back up. Drop your takeaway or gratitude into the chat if you can. Let's just show her our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thanks
so
being
good.
Here. Thank
you.
We'll
be back again, you guys. We will be back here next Monday, 9 Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern time, with another amazing RocketFuel session. We look forward to seeing you.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the gram.